Thanks everyone for coming out. I'm going to give a talk. We're going to talk about sort of web2 social media, big tech. I think people are aware of some of the ills, the harms, the challenges it's caused in our societies today. And I think a lot of people believe that Web3 and NFT-based technology can offer solutions that can actually solve some of these problems, create better social discourse, better dissemination of news and information. And that's the promise that we all believe in. But I think we want to look practically at how can we live up to this promise? How can we use Web3 technologies to actually make and impact this difference? So a little bit of background on myself. My name is Doug Petkanics. I'm the founder of a project called LivePeer. LivePeer is a Web3-based video infrastructure. We've been around since 2017, live on Ethereum since 2018. We have thousands of node operators all around the world that contribute their compute and their infrastructure to power video streaming, video on demand. And LivePeer is used and powers a lot of the Web3 social media applications, like applications built in the Lens protocol ecosystem, DSO ecosystem, CyberConnect ecosystem, Farcaster ecosystem. And so we care deeply about the future of Web3 social media, the creator economy, and really want to create sort of better platforms for creators where they can monetize, control their audience, not be deplatformed, and make their communities part of their content creation. So I think when we think about Web3 social media, one of the key things that we have to realize is that the future of social and creator is not just going to be a clone of traditional social platforms built on Web3 tech. And so far we've seen a lot of that. We've seen sort of the Twitter but built on the blockchain, or the YouTube but built on the blockchain. And I would argue that's nowhere near far enough to be disruptive. No one's going to leave the distribution and the convention and the feature polish of these sort of big tech existing social platforms if there's nothing new and disruptive that's enabled by what Web3 offers. So while I think it's great we can build alternatives to Twitter for those who are deplatformed, I don't think that's going to be disruptive enough or impactful enough to really catalyze world-changing impact. So when we do think about what would be disruptive enough, what would be powerful enough, I think we really need to focus on leveraging what's kind of uniquely enabled by Web3 and blockchain. And if you ask me what is uniquely enabled, I think there's really been 4 key trends, right? The first one, I think, is kind of global permissionless crowdfunding. The second is access to an open, uncensorable financial ecosystem. I think the third is provable digital ownership and ownership over digital assets. And the fourth, I think, is collective global coordination and the power that blockchain brings to that problem. So those are sort of abstract ideas, but you probably recognize them better by their 3 and 4 letter acronyms. That's ICOs, DeFi, NFTs, and DAOs, right? Those are the kind of 4 things that have existed that have been uniquely impactful relative to the sort of traditional Web2 counterparts. And I would argue that breakout Web3 social media is going to tap into 1 or 2 or 3 or maybe all 4 of those primitives to actually differentiate from what you see on Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, TikTok today. If someone's building in this space, I would recommend that they don't just start by trying to build a new social network. I think it's a really big challenge to start with something that's only useful when you have thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of users on it that requires that network effect to be useful. I'd actually recommend that people look at the problems that exist today in sort of this online first digital native world where Web3 and crypto is really impacting, and start with building a tool for the media-focused communities, the NFT-focused communities, the artist-focused communities that exist in this world. There's a sort of product building pattern called come for the tool, stay for the network. And what it represents is it's really useful if your product has a single player mode, something that's useful just to an individual user or a community. And then as long as they're getting that utility, over time they discover more utility through a network that gets formed. I'll give you a couple of examples of how this played out in traditional social media. The first one that I can think of is Instagram, which started as a photo filter tool called Bourbon. And it was just a tool for photographers or anyone to apply these cool looking filters on their photos. And of course, as users did that, they began to share them out on other forms of social media. More users came in, they added network capabilities where you can find and follow friends, and eventually it exploded into a social network, right? Strava, it's the leading kind of fitness-focused social network, started just as a run tracking app or a cycling tracking app for individuals. But then as individuals got that utility, they began to follow and share and comment on their friends' rides, and now it's one of the most positive social networks in the world. Even TikTok started as a tool where an individual could just record themselves lip-syncing over a clip of sound in an app called Musical.ly. No secret, that became the fastest growing social network of all time as people began to get this content fed to them through an algorithm that TikTok sort of layered on top after. So if you look at the Web3 world, where ICOs, DeFi, NFTs, and DAOs have really had an impact, I think there's so many opportunities to solve problems for individual communities. And then it's worth recognizing, well, people participate in many different communities. You can start to build up media across these, you can curate it, and you can build a network that way. What might that look like? I think every NFT community is sort of becoming a media organization in a way. They're all creating content around the themes of the art or the themes of the NFT. And they need tools in order to manage and distribute and control access to and to make that content engaging for their community. Think of these as, what's a Web3 native content management system look like? It's not just about publishing all your content into one place. It's about distributing it across traditional and Web3 social media platforms. It's about gating access based on the token holders in your community. And it's a whole different set of needs than exist in traditional Web2 walled garden communities. And so I would look at building content management systems for DAOs. I would look at curating the great content that gets created in these communities and creating sort of media publications or feeds that users can access. I would think about networking these together using on-chain identities like ENS or unstoppable domains or wallet-connected addresses so that people can bring their identity across communities. And as soon as you have that, you have the beginning of a network, and you have something that's unique online for this new Web3 native digital world that's emerging. And that's different, and that's disruptive to what I think you're seeing inside of the walled garden of Facebook today. Just an example, I think it's worth noting that in traditional Web2 tech, the model has been to harness all of your users' ideas, content, media, what they're putting out there, allow people to access it for free, to aggregate attention, and then you put kind of walled gardens around this, so all the attention exists on your platform, you have as much as possible across as many users as possible, and then you monetize it via attention and advertising, essentially. I think in Web3, where content is open by default, it's published on blockchains, it's open and accessible to multiple front ends, I don't think the winners are going to look like single super apps that control and aggregate everything. I think you should really think about building for individual communities, recognizing they're going to have their own content, their own media that sort of conforms to the charter and beliefs and philosophies of that community, as opposed to trying to make every user around the world happy, which we've seen as an impossible task. And so I think you should be thinking about building for communities and then networking these together and allowing people to move between them rather than trying to build the kind of aggregated super app in a walled garden. So anyway, I just threw out a a bunch of ideas, the beginning of a blueprint for how you might think about using these technologies to disrupt traditional social media. It's a big topic. Like I said, deeply interested in this myself at LivePeer, where we build video infrastructure that powers the video functionality in new media, in Web3 social. And we'd love to collaborate with builders, projects, communities to help push forward on the ideas and kind of accelerate the arrival of the future that we all believe in. So that's my talk. Doug Petkanics, thank you very much.